Now, in the second part, we will take a closer look at how you can combine data from elements, views, and surfaces with positions that are stored in a table. Let's go back into DataMiner. Okay, so here I have the few table element links, and the idea is that we create something like this. So in these data blocks, you have some data from, for example, the Arista elements here, also some from a service on encoding and decoding, and then some more from a number of views. Okay, let's take a closer look into the Visio to see how this is done. So I'll go to Edit Visio. Okay, we're using the stencils using macros, so we're going to enable these. Okay, so the first shape, let's zoom in, is a shape that is linked to a view. So what are we using here? We are using the X position, which is referencing to our table links element parameter 100, so the table ID, and then we have a subscription filter on parameter or table column 106. So this one is only shown for views. Okay, so then here we're using the view name placeholder, and then we have a number of properties for the view. So for the view, just test properties of the view, and then here we have data from the table. So that's just a text. This property shouldn't be here. Let's delete that one. Okay, and then we have the specific parameters from the table. So we're using elements double asterisk, so 2 stars, which is indicating that we want to show actual data from the table and not from the linked element. And then we're also using a reference to our table parameter and using the display table index placeholder to indicate which row of the table will be used. So same thing for the second parameter, referencing parameter 112 of the table. Then let's take a look at the service. So again, same things, expos referencing the position table, and a subscription filter, this time filtering by service. And then in the service, we are using some info tags for the service statistics. So in this case, we'll be showing the total number of elements in the service and the total number of alarms in the service using the total elements, or total elements and total alarms placeholders. And then the data from the table is again identical to what we had on the view. So parameter 110 element placeholder or element shape data with the double stars. And then also in our views, we have a small button linking to the KPI window. Okay, then for elements, so these are the linked elements, not the table element. So again, the main shape is the same thing, referencing table 100 of our linked elements element. Or element containing the table with the positions and elements links, and subscription filter for only elements. Data from table is again the same, double wildcards and parameter ID and display index or display table index. And then for the parameters, we are basically just using regular parameter shape data. So parameter 1, you can choose whether or not you want to display the alarm status. And that's basically it. So just the element is on the main data using elements with a single wildcard, and then within the group we have parameters as you would normally have, and to show data from the table you need to use the double wildcards. Also here I forgot to mention this for service. So to link a service we also use elements with a wildcard, which will reference or use the value from the linked element column. And also for the views, instead of element we use view with a regular wildcard. Alright, and last example is using tables data from a linked element. Again, we have the same thing going on. So the main thing has xpos, which has a placeholder to our element that's holding the positions and linked elements. We have an element with a normal wildcard, and then when we go into it, we have a parameter which is now linking to a table within that element. So table column 1003, and then using the table index of the element that's holding the links. So again, the double wildcard here, parameter 101, so that's the first column of our table, and then the display table index. Okay, same for the second parameter from a table. Of course, if you want, you can mix the table parameters and the regular element parameters in a single shape. And then data from table is again the same story, double wildcards and linking to the parameters. Okay, so let's take a closer look again in DataMiner. So here with the KPI table, we see our data from our link elements. Table, and as you can see from the Arista switch, we have parameters 1 and 2. We have 2 elements in the service, 0 alarms at the moment, and the data from the table is matching the linked element. Let's take a closer look in the element positions element. So here we have the links to our elements, views and services, and as you can see, this is quite flexible. So you can just link an element using the element name. You can also use the element ID, so DMA ID / element ID. The same thing for services. Services you can also link by their ID, so DMA ID / service ID or the service name. And for views, it's basically the same thing. You can use the view name or you can use the view ID. So that's it for our table element links. So in this example, the data blocks were laid out on a simple grid again, but you can use it for many applications. The background could be a map or floor plan of a building, for example, with some of climate control data. It could be a device rack with some data on the different devices, or a blueprint of a device with data on the different parts. It's really very flexible, so you can apply it to any application you need.